Hey everyone. Today, we discuss Old White, who dealt with the mob post-USSR collapse, a legend he outspot instantly. Whenever the gang faced trouble, they called David to fix things, a total jack of all trades. David's style? Quick and decisive, and he doesn't even spare his family. You gotta admit, he's got some serious skills to send. The local cops were like his personal bodyguards, which kept Old By up at night, pacing outside, worried he might drag his friends down with him. His friend chuckled, head in hand, after years of retreat. Your 3 tilde agi sedilla are cute. It tells the Cyrillic letter 43 I circumflex a mat spirit I u power sign u imat you circumflex o I mat Cyrillic letter 43 I circumflex I cute. I am out letter 3 F00 letter 73 not sign C sedilla Cyrillic letter 4b3 a grov real 14678 remains unchanged. Though worried, your fear self still lives. This gave Old By a sense of relief, so he set out to track down that corrupt cop. This guy had been with Old White for years, knew many secrets. Old By beat him up and slipped quietly into the car. He needed to find out where the money laundering factory was, but the guy was tight-lipped at first. Old By had planned ahead and had a C-Otwell pipe handy. Old By rolled down the window, leaving no respite. Facing death threats, the man finally confessed. He followed the man to the money laundering den, with lookouts outside and the core insider cash everywhere, more than banks could ever hold. The lookout saw Old By was a stranger and immediately got suspicious, but Old By stayed cool as a cucumber in the crisis. To pull off a heist, he needed to take control. Old By swiftly snatched the gun and took charge, securing the area like it was a walk in the park. Before calling the cops, he made sure to snatch up the payroll too. Old By left the opportunity to call the cops to the guy because he knew this fella had been helping them for years. There had to be a backup plan. This was all to awaken the last shred of his conscience. Sure enough, the seasoned man finally decided to let it slip. He had hidden the evidence in a... When John got the evidence, the police rushed in, opened the vaults, and saw tied up gangsters and piles of cash in disbelief. They were stunned into silence, while Old By pieced together the evidence he had. He discovered even more officials were involved and quickly sent the evidence anonymously to the FBI. He also found info on Old White's old tanker. Following the address, he went to the dock and blew up the tanker, living by the motto real men don't look back at explosions, leaving in a stylish exit after taking down both the factory and the tank. Old White suffered heavy losses and gave David an ultimatum: eliminate Old By before dawn or don't return. Now Old By hid in shadows, David in plain sight, making finding him impossible. David felt hopeless. Spotting a chubby guy following Old By, he got an idea and had his men grab all of Old By's colleagues. He made the chubby guy call Old By and set the timer. If he didn't show up in 30 minutes, they'd start executing everyone. Old By's worst fear came to life. It was a life or death moment. But he knew his comrades were innocent, so he had to rush back, even through hell and high water. Meanwhile, David already set up the ambush, waiting for Old By to take the bait. But David underestimated Old By, who noticed his phone was being tracked and pulled a quick cold divert, leaving David, who was ready to shoot him, empty-handed. Furious, David ordered his men to take care of the hostages, but just then, the mall's music blared to life. No surprise, it was Old By pulling strings. He knew they'd rushed to the control room to shut it down. Little Chubby, the mole guard, turned out to be the perfect choice, ready to spring a trap. After things got wrapped up, Old By hid the bodies away. Utilized Chubby to lure another person out. Subtitles: he took the man out with a sneak attack from behind, then had Chubby lead everyone to escape through the back door, while he stayed behind to face it alone. Sure, David had the numbers, but Old By knew this place like the back of his hand. He cut off all the exits in the mall and scattered sand on the floor. Anyone passing through would definitely take a look down, and that was the perfect moment to strike. The man wouldn't even get a chance to shout for help. His brothers came over, cautiously checking it out, then just as one raised his head, ready to grab a gun, David swooped in just in time. A shot hit Old By right in the arm. He can only take cover temporarily for now. He heated a piece of metal and pressed it against the wound to stop the bleeding. He did all this without making a sound, then placed the flamethrower in the middle of the aisle. Learning from his buddy's mistakes, making sure they wouldn't dare approach. However, when the man stepped back, Old By was already standing right behind him, watching as his buddies dropped like flies. The big bearded man couldn't hold back any longer and broke through the wall with force. Old Bi saw his chance and sprang into action, delivering a solid hit to the dude's shoulder. Subtitles: he strikes swiftly, fiercely, and accurately, leaving no slightest chance for the opponent. But alas, the bearded big guy was exceptionally tough and remained unyielding even when the blade was thrust, knocking Old Bi down with one swoop. He punished Old Bi's legs ruthlessly, then grabbed a piece of glass to finish him off. Just as Old Bi noticed the shard of glass nearby, he made a desperate move, grabbing the glass and driving it into the guy's neck. The man gradually fell silent amidst his agonized screams. At that moment, the chubby guy, worried about Old Bi, reappeared for the rescue. However, just as he helped Old Bi up, he was shot in the leg. The two immediately dove behind a shelf. Subtitles: they have now completely exposed their position and must take some action. He instructed Chubby to reach the power box in 40 seconds and turn on all the Maul's power. He would distract another enemy while Chubby scrambled to keep his time. David followed closely behind, having caught onto Chubby's run. Just as he was about to fire, Chubby flipped every switch, and amid the explosion, Chubby ducked inside, locking the door tight and pointing a gun at the window. David quickly arrived right on his heels, but in that life-or-death moment, he got shot with a nail gun, and the person arriving was precisely Old Bi. Initially, everyone thought there'd be an epic battle, but it turned out to be a total one-sided affair. David died without ever realizing who was behind all this. Who exactly was the one taking them all down? 3 days later, Old Bi rolled into Moscow all alone. He is in need of eliminating the puppeteer, Old White, once and for all. Old Bi easily took down the guards at the door. Meanwhile, a completely oblivious Old White was taking a shower. As he heard the sounds, Old Bi was already outside the door. At that moment, Old White thought he could buy his way out, but Old Bi wasn't interested in cash. He just wanted Old White's head. This time Old Bi didn't get his hands dirty. Instead, he filled the sink until it overflowed, and waited for Old White to come and shut it off, while secretly placing wires in the water. And just like that, a prominent mobster was electrocuted to death, leaving in a manner that's rather lacking in dignity. Everything has settled down. Old Bi met Sayori once again. He came back from his rural hideout a completely different man. Now he had a proper job and was gearing up for a fresh start. Influenced by Old Bi, he had taken up reading and confidently told him, "Don't worry, I will definitely work hard and live well until I'm strong enough to move into your mansion." So make sure to subscribe, guys. More hilarious stories are just around the corner.